Thank you all for joining and for sticking in there until the last session. So, what I was thinking of for this talk is something I've seen in a lot of places is when people are writing React apps, is a certain approach to state that if you kind of stop this way that I'm going to describe after my intro, if you stop it early on, the rest of state and having like kind of a good holistic state management will fall into place. And I'll go into details what I mean there. But first, my name is Colin Gray. I live in Ontario, Canada, specifically Stratford, Ontario. It's a small town you should visit if you ever are going on your way to Toronto. Very good theater here. I am a collector of hobbies. So I learned that Simon's been asking everyone about their hobbies. I'll have a few I can rattle off there. I'm a happy dad, and my pronouns are he and him. So, what do I mean by put it all in state? What I mean is that when we typically get a design, we 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 start to reverse engineer the dynamic parts based on the design. So we're going to look at, I've got a couple text inputs here. Okay, then I need two things that are dynamic. And if I have two things that are dynamic, I'll have two pieces of state. Uh, this is the line of thinking that I want to kind of hold up and shine a light on and solve for because there's something wrong with this. The reason that I think something is wrong here is that our visual state might come from many things that are kind of contributing to that state. The most common two are UI events and network. Network can be multiple network requests. You might have polling, you might have live edits. I'm going to go into some examples of those. But you could also have, you could think of hardware events if you're doing Bluetooth events or some other hardware event. Anything basically that is a side effect. And so I want to change this line of thought from design to identifying dynamic parts to making them dynamic. Instead, you get your mock-up of your UI and you start to identify the side effects or the sources of state or the sources of events. Lots of ways to conceptualize this. Pick one that works for you. And then you want to funnel them into a view model. Funnel them into a view model sounds a bit like kind of an Android speak. In React speak, we might say, turn these into a computed value. So use memo should come to mind. So that side effects part, again, that's the network request, the user events, all of those are side effects, right? So in this scenario, we start with we have a UI or a mock-up of a UI. And instead of saying, okay, I have two inputs, I'm going to make those dynamic, I'm going to instead say, well, the username is editable. So I need an edits object of some sort. And it's going to come from the network. And so I need a response data. And my value of the name, Colin in this case, is going to come from those two values, edits and response data. I did a funny thing here where I said edits.name and response data.name. If I have time, I'm going to go into how Shopify and specifically the Shopify app models this draftable data. But what I want to do is pull up some code samples and actually run through them and see if we can't refactor those into more reasonable managed state. So I've got three examples that I'm going to go through. First one is just a very simple kind of a straw man, I suppose, of the spinner. So network is busy, show a spinner. Simple as that. The second one, adding a little more complexity, and here I think we'll have hopefully a little bit more room and time to play around, is the draft state. I have a lot of thoughts about draft state and what a good user experience is for draft state. And similar to that is a collaborative editing experience where you can go online and offline. Other people are editing the same resource. So yeah, all of these are going to use a kind of mocked up little playground that I've got going. And yeah, wish me luck because live coding always goes really well, right? So here we go. So I'm running Expo, React and Chill app. And here we have the app running. So I've got my three demos. And of course, I'm a mobile developer most of the time. And so I'm going to be using React Native app. And what our spinner app does, you saw it there, it counts down. And at the end of the count of 4, it does a spinner for a few seconds, and it stops. Cool. It also has a pull to refresh feature. Pull it any direction, and it refreshes. And we can get it to do some weird things. See, it's stopping there. How about if I go and then immediately pull to refresh? That's fine. Let's do it again. Stops. Okay, I want to show you what's going on. I've got some log messages here. So here's the kind of pretend code that we've got going. We've got our view, we have our activity indicator, and I've identified one thing that's dynamic, whether or not this activity, this spinner is spinning. And if it is, then great, I'm going to set it to true if it's spinning. Don't do this, everybody. We should fix this. So we will. And the reason we shouldn't do it this way is we have two sources of side effects. And these two sources are stepping over each other, or stepping on each other's toes, or however you want to phrase that. So the first one is this timer. Like I said, counts down from 4, then runs this function here, sets the spinner before and after. Check messages, you can see, is just a silly little function there. And then when it's done, does that. So let's see this again with our log running. So check for messages start. And it's done. And I can pull to refresh start, and it's done. Oh, and we check for messages again. I think this timer is actually on a loop. I don't think I showed that before because I forgot. So yeah, it's going to keep running. There we go. And if I do that, we see a done event and then done again. So it's stopping the timer and stopping the spinner before it's actually done. Okay, so there we have it. Let's take a look at what we actually need to do. We have two sources of side effects, so two sources of state. So it's not one dynamic piece of UI, one dynamic state, two side effects, two pieces of state. So I'll take this first one, and I'm going to change this one to is messages loading. Then I'll take this one, and that'll be is refreshing. Oops. Okay, and then down here, I have loading now is unknown. So I'll say is loading is refreshing, or is messages loading. Hopefully you beat me to this, because I think any programmer worth their salt would take a quick look at this and say, that's straightforward. Yeah, this is meant to be the straightforward example. So stick with me. Let's see here. Oh, what are you talking about? There's my live demo. What? Oh, yeah. You know what? I did that a little bit before. I thought that sounded funny. Oh, for goodness sake. Okay. Cool. I'll get that running. Done. Still spinning. Done. A little hard to see, but start, done. Oh, there's an interesting one. So I can pull to refresh and pull to refresh again, and it actually clobbers itself. So now we've got this is refreshing. You can run this 2 times. If is refreshing, return, because we don't need to do that. That should be cool. Cool. All right, and as long as we have a network request in flight, that spinner is still going. Okay, so contrived example, hopefully a simple one, and everyone's kind of on the same page of like, got it. Side effects equal state. That's a silly statement. You see what I'm getting at. Side effects correlate to the amount of state that you have, rather than the other way of view correlating to the amount of state you have. Let's look at the next example that I have here. So we have draft state here, and draft state is basically I've got some doing a demo. and we can press save, and that goes up and does its thing. And we also have a network response that's coming in and sending us our initial value. So it's telling me, hey, you've got stuff. There it is. I got those values. So what happens when I do this draft state is doing a demo. Oh, there again, we've got local UI state that's being clobbered by network state. And that network is a slow network response. It took a little while. Another thing that can happen is if you have a cache response. So we'll see what curveball that provides in a second here. Okay, so we've got, because I wanted to point out that if you, no, why did I want to point out the cache? Because the cache does, oh yeah. So you've got the editable state, you've got a network response. Throw another curveball in. What if you have a cache response? And the cache response is different from the network response. So yeah, the cache response is going to come in and give us a nice quick value there. And we go, oh, okay, great. We've solved it by increasing the speed of our network request. Well, no, because once this thing has actually completed, we're going to get new values that clobber. So yeah, the thing that you need to avoid is this kind of order of operations thinking. Oh, I will have a network request go out. I will freeze the UI until the response is done. Here, let me show what that is. So we have this is loading. So down here, we could have these enabled, disabled. Well, let's have it be hidden because I don't remember the value for that. Is loading. Do that. Otherwise, null. I got it in the wrong place up here. Okay. Do that again. Right. So now I'm going to undo the cache. What in the world? If it is loading, there we go. So they're hidden. The loading event starts, they show up, and now we can edit. Now, of course, this should be disabled, but I don't remember the enabled disabled property for text input. That won't work when we add back in the cache because cache is going to say, hey, loading's completed. We've got, classic, is loading, is options dot cached or true. If it's using cached, then it's not. Yeah, I'm going to do it like that. It's actually wrong. Nope. Well, both of those are wrong. Okay, if we're using a cached response, then I want that to be visible. And if it's visible, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, everybody. This went great in production, or great in the demo. I think you see what I'm getting at. If we get a cached value, loading should be false, and if loading is false, they should be visible immediately. Then the network request comes. You see what I'm getting at. Okay, let's fix it. And then let's play with the draft state itself. So we're going to have here name and set name, email and set email. We want these to be tracked on the UI and on the response value. So the response we can get from here. So instead of an on completed with set name and set email, we're just going to say, let's get our response from use query, and we'll get our name. In fact, yeah, I'll use two. Use memo. And now, what to do here? We could say name, and this is going to turn into, I'm going to call it UI name and UI email. We want to track whether they edited or not. And I want that to be a specific value. This is just my kind of spider sense. On change text here on this set name, I'm actually going to change this to be text. And well, here, I'm going to say on change name. And I'm actually going to add another did edit set did edit, false. Like I said, this is just my spider sense of what to put in state. Remember the name of the talk, put it all in state. Like rather than have a name that is undefined until I give it a value, and that means that I edited it, make a separate state for that. You'll thank yourself later. This is going to be text. Set did edit true. I might need this to have two of them because I'm going to have, no, you know what? I'm going to have it be one value for both text fields, even though I said, right, don't map that, because if you edited either of them, I don't want network to modify the other one either. Once you're editing, that's the behavior I want. Once you're editing name, then it's like hands off both. Cool. So I'll say set to edit that. Let's change email. And this is going to be set name text. Cool. Doesn't know what that is. It's a string. Unchange that one. That one. Cool. So now, if I did edit, then return the UI name. Otherwise, return the response dot data. No, it's just this stuff. Response dot name. And that needs a default. Let's see if I got my prints right. Okay. Yep. And this is going to did edit, UI name, and response. And then I'll have the same thing for response is possibly undefined. And here, email. Okay. So pausing to catch my breath here to make sure this is all how I want it. Not crazy about this. Of course, I want these to be disabled. In fact, why don't we pull this up? And it's text input base, which is name as a constructor and type of this state. No. Try that again. Text input. That's not showing me what I want. Yes, it is. Here we go. Scroll enabled. That's it. Psh, okay, well, I tried. Yeah, let's give it a try because this should be working. And it's hiding. I don't want to hide it anymore. I want editable. There we go. Okay. That's interesting. Same name, Larry and Larry, because I didn't do my memo right. Here we go. Okay, there's that. Now that's using the cached value. I'm going to disable that cached value so that we get here and I can start typing anyone's name. The result comes in, no edit. If we wait, we'll get that. That information will roll in. Okay. Now, good UX, I actually think here we need something to say. If our response, we have a value and we have a name, and this doesn't equal our name, and what? And did edit? I want more state in here because I want something that says you edited this before the response came. And now that you've edited it, the response came in and these two things are different. So here we would say, your values may be out of sync. And then we'll have, oops, pressable press here to use the network values. I'm a coder, not a writer. Uh-huh. Okay, it's doing that. I can. Text strings must be in a text. I did that. What are you complaining about? This is, if you've never coded in React Native, it does say that. Oh, you know what? It's because of this one. Unlike in web, you can't just put text anywhere because it's very special. Oh, look at that. And I'll have that do something where it says, hey, but of course here I need response and response.name. I don't need the question mark there. Cool, that one's the good case. And if we don't, if I edit it first, comes in, says, hey, you edited before. This is just a little, I'm inserting a little good UX thing in here of having an editable form with a kind of like feedback for your user. Oh, I got values and you started to overwrite them. You might want to do something about this. Press this and it'll load them in. Show what the values are as little values underneath the thing. All sorts of things you could do there to make that better. Okay. 221. Nope, time to go to the third one. So this one's fun because I made a whole little playground for it. So this one, you have other people who are authoring, and you need to kind of reconcile those changes. So we have Alice, and she's going to set the value to 1, and Bob, he's going to set the value to 2, and then you have myself. I'll set the value to 3. It is clobbering my value already. I started to type, and it immediately overwrote that value because yes, I have it very, very fresh here. Um, so here's the situation. I can go online and I expect the network to connect and to give me these values. And it's going to give me these values in this callback here, this message callback. And we'll be able to see those. And then I need to do something with them. I need to assign them. This is my value change thing. So I need values coming in from UI, values coming in from the network. So 2 pieces of side effects, 2 pieces of data. So let's go. So just like before, why don't we start with a value? And this will be an empty string. And this will be our UI value. And then we'll have another for the network response, which I don't have the response from the hook in this case. So I'm just going to have response and set response. And this is going to be the author string and value string or undefined. Okay, and then our author as well. Okay, on value change. Oh, actually, our author, this is an interesting one where it's not editable. It just is this value if I edit it. So I can set UI author to self and set value to the text. Then I'm going to need my value to be my UI value and my author to be, I'll just do it as a UI author. That'll give me some editable things there. Cool, author is you. Now, if I go online, we get values, but we're not showing them yet. And so here's where we would say, oh yeah, no problem. I have a place for that. Set response is author value. And then down here, again, did edit. I find that to be a useful thing. Set did edit true. Did edit. And then here, did edit that. Otherwise, response dot that or empty string. Go online, we get those values. I can edit them. And actually over here, it will tell me that I set the value. No, it's not setting the value. Well, go offline, I can do that. Go online, it actually gets the correct value because it's mine. And if I now change the value, it's sending those in. I don't have time. I thought I would. What we want again is this button that says, "Hey, you went online, you've been editing, there's new values." When we put it all in state, we have that all the information we need to be able to make those choices. Uh, when we have more information in state than just the dynamic part, we have kind of the user's history, how they got to this state. That's when we're able um, to kind of show this helpful UI to make really informed decisions about what we give the user and what we're displaying and the options that they have. So, how'd I do? I hope I did all right. Um, I'm going to end with a few random words of wisdom. These are Colin Gray originals. Yeah, if you're going to name something in state, this is a random one. Use affirmative names. I hate is hidden and is disabled and no permission, whatever. Don't do that. If you're going to reach for state management, signals. I think it's all about signals these days. Other frameworks use them. React doesn't have its own primitive, but that's okay. I think these are kind of the best um, ergonomics, and also they set you up to learn other frameworks like Solid or Svelte. But the reason you choose any state management and the reason you think about all this stuff is about reducing re-renders. So if you're going to kind of take on state management, reducing re-renders is what you should be really, really trying to consider. Although I don't have a slide in here that says it's all about good UX, because that's what I harped on. So remember everything else I said, and remember this. And reducing re-renders, watch out for objects and arrays. These are things that when you do a comparison with previous and next, they often change, even though the value hasn't changed, because JavaScript doesn't have a kind of value comparison without doing deep equality checks. Okay, quite the whirlwind. I hope that helps you. Yeah, thanks everybody.